Hey everybody, what's up? Today we're going to start going over the Season 5 patch notes. We're going to split these videos up a little bit and do it over this weekend. So, something to keep in mind with Season 5 is that since the PTS is up and it'll be up for a couple weeks, all this stuff will pretty much constantly be changing, so they'll do updates on, I believe, Monday, which is 2 days from now, and then they'll just keep doing that. So, some of these things may change, but I'm just going to give my opinions on them as they are, and then when they change, I'll do another video and all that good stuff. So, skins, I mean, I guess we'll go over it, just like, you know, their skins. Athena, this skin looks really cool. I'm excited for this one. I don't know what the voice pack is like or anything.
I am the messenger of the gods, and I will bring glory to Olympus.
That is really, really loud. Hopefully that's not killing your guys' ears, but that is fucking loud as shit. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of skins, all that good stuff. Miscellaneous, new design features, so completely new visuals for the map, blah blah blah, Mount Olympus versus Tartarus the Underworld, all that good stuff. Map size adjustment. So here's where we start getting to the actual changes. Conquest will be 20% wider come Season 5. We are doing this to slightly slow down rotations and increase the importance of gaining advantages around the map, blah blah blah. So this has been asked for a while. A lot of people were really unhappy with how small the map was, and you were able to rotate from lane to lane so quickly and make such a big impact, and it's one of the reasons that a lot of like 4-man groupings early game, like 3 minutes or whatever, would happen. And you would notice in Season 4 metas that it's even like Season 4, Season 3, Season 2, just on this map, the history of it, you would see a lot of early like big team fights on speed buff or blue buff or whatever, and it's just because the map is so small, it's so easy to rotate and not lose anything for it. So making the map a little bit wider like this and a little bit bigger will mean that mid lane can't rotate to solo without, you know, losing some sort of buff or, you know, camp or I guess just a wave or whatever. Jungle layout and atmosphere. The layout of the jungle has undergone many changes. There are more widening paths and narrow locations. Speed buff has been moved into the jungle, blah blah blah. So let's go just over this point by point. There are more winding paths and narrow locations. So basically there's more walls, there's more just rocks and things obstructing the jungle. So you don't have stuff like, if you noticed in my map guide, for those of you who watched it for Season 4, that in Season 5 you're not going to be able to stand in mid and see the solo lane. Like there's going to be a lot more rocks, there'll be a lot more paths, and because of that, you have to be a lot more careful with your rotations, and you have to be a lot more, I guess, you know, you have to like plan them out a little more. You can't just start rotating into the jungle because you might lose something because it's wider, and now that there's more narrow locations, it's really easy for you to get picked off or really easy for you to get caught. Next point is speed buff camp has been moved back into the jungle. A heartbeat camp has taken its place. So basically what this will do is it lessens the impact or lessens the chance that your speed buff is going to get invaded. People will still look to go to it, but now instead of the speed being really close to both mid and solo lane, both of those lanes are now much further from it if you're trying to invade, and it's a lot more risky because it's deeper. And then, I guess later on, the speed buff also spawns a little bit earlier, so it should be much easier for a jungle to get its own speed buff. The Oracles now have their own camp across from the Gold Fury. They're barely moved, you know, just, you know, a little bit different. Jungle Fog has returned. So the Fog, a lot of people seem to be a little confused on this. So a Fog of War has always been a thing, but what the Jungle Fog will do is sometimes in the old map, there would be Fog of War, but you could still see like the outline of the character in the distance depending on your graphics settings, or you could barely see them like their nameplate or something like that. Now that there's Fog, it'll be much harder for stuff like that to come up, and also it'll just make it feel like more of a jungle. I personally like it. If you have low graphics settings, it may look a little weird or be a little too bright, but for the most part, I think it's a really good change and I like it. Key features and landmarks, I don't think this really matters, just like an art design sort of thing. Map feedback adjustments. Titans are now encased in crystal. Phoenix have a visual link to the Titan. You know, that type of stuff. Just all quality of life changes or just aesthetic stuff. Gameplay pacing changes. So this is where stuff really matters, and this is where the map changes really get in there. So reduce the XP split bonuses from 50 to 20%. This, in my opinion, is a really good... So first I'd like to say, when I say something's a good change, I don't mean this 20%. I mean the direction of the change is what I'm referencing. So, making it more punishing to split and more rewarding to solo farm is very important in my opinion, because in Season 2, 3, 4, basically, actually just the entire history of Smite, it has been inefficient to not split. Like, ideally, every single piece of experience on the map, you wanted a 2-man split, and the reason for that would be you would end up gaining, like, 150% of the total experience. I think it would be 75 and 75. Now that total experience is going to be more like 120, I think, instead of 150, so... Oh yeah, that's actually exactly what I meant. I didn't know if this was per person or total, but this is, like, total. So, it used to be, you get 100% of the experience no matter what. If you 2-man split it, it would be 150, and now it'll be 120. So, because of that, it's a lot less, impactful to split. If you have an ADC splitting with their support and the other ADC is solo farming, they'll get significantly ahead over time. So, as a support, it means it's more... You have to think more about who you're taking farm from and that type of stuff. And if you are a jungler, people won't be splitting your camps as much, and if they do, you're kind of screwed, but people will learn that over time. Minions hit by towers will now retain 25% of their gold instead of losing all of it. I actually don't like this change. This change has gone... It has come, like, in and out of the game for a while now, for a few seasons. This is, like, the 3rd or 4th time I remember seeing it. And I just don't really like it at all, because you'll see a little later that they're going to have the gold scale up, so as you kill creeps, like a creep at 1 minute will give you less gold than a creep at 10 minutes. And because of that, I just don't think that having gold from tower is good, because you should be able to punish people if they're losing laning phase really hard. And while losing 75% of the gold is a thing, I think the biggest thing I've noticed on this map from playing on PTS is that it is really, really easy to farm up gold, and that giving it back to a team that's behind, I don't really think they need it. I think there's a lot of other ways to recover it, and I prefer it the other way around. It's kind of just an opinion or a feel thing, but yeah. Minions and jungle monsters now gain additional XP and gold over time. That's what I was talking about. So this has to be tweaked, I think. So for people playing on the PTS, I wouldn't make your judgment too quickly on this. This definitely has to be tweaked. I think currently as it is on PTS on, the first Saturday, it's only been on a couple days, the gold seems like it ramps up way too quickly. And I think that by like 10 minutes, people are having like boots and 2 full items if they're farming well or if they're solo farming. And that feels a little too fast for me, because the base stats and everything, everyone just does like so much damage if you have it like that, which could be okay, but just from how it used to feel in Season 4, I feel like it's just way too much. I think the scaling needs to be toned down a bit in the early stages, but I think this is really cool that over time, it used to be a problem if your jungle kept getting reinvaded and reinvaded. It would be really punishing, because you would just fall like a full rotation behind, and you couldn't gain that back. But now if you lose a rotation of your jungle at 5 minutes, and then you take their jungle at like 15 minutes, you're actually going to be more ahead, because it was more impactful than you took it. So like, they'll hit their power spikes a little quicker if they're stealing stuff in the early game, but if you steal it in the mid and the late game, then you're gaining a lot more from it, and I think that's pretty cool. And I think it also rewards people who, if you're behind and then the team, so like say I'm a team that's ahead and I make a really like stupid aggressive play and I lose it, in previous seasons you really couldn't get punished that hard for it, because normally they couldn't take a tower off of it, and Gold Fury, Portal, and Fire would already be dead, or they couldn't do it anyways. So now if you make a stupid play like that and those objectives are down, you have a way to come back just from farming waves and from taking their jungle. And because the jungle timers are lower, it's really likely that if you win a fight from behind, there will be stuff to take off of it, and then this change allows you to actually win something. So that's actually really good for comeback potential and that type of stuff. Respawn time of buff camps reduced from 180 to 120. That's just to give the jungle more solo farm. You don't want to be splitting as much, so more camps coming up quicker means that everyone can kind of solo farm and everybody will gain levels on their own, and then the jungle can sustain themselves and just farm fine. Respawn time of middle heartbeat camps from 120 to 90, so just kind of, again, everything's quicker. And then back heartbeat camps from 80 to 60. And then conquest start time increased from 60 to 90. This is your time before game, and this is good because the map is bigger, so you should have more time to travel and all that good stuff, and I just think having the extra 30 seconds is nice to plan out what you want to do. And then, yeah, I think that's it. The back harpy ones, I think, concern me a little bit, because they were, in Season 4, back harpies were worth a lot more than mid harpies, and they're so much quicker that I feel like you can gain so much farm from the back harpies. I don't know if I really love this one, especially because back harpies are now where speed used to be. So if you steal those as like a soul laner, the soul laner could get really, really far ahead. So this one on the solo side of the map, I don't know if I love it, but the rest of the changes I like. Map NPC adjustments is just a lot of scaling down their health and stuff. So they changed the jungle monsters to be like actual monsters, so it'll be like, I forget what the names they use, like the Manticore is the red buff and stuff like that. So buff camp, buff holder, XP reduced, gold reduced, base health reduced, a lot, by the way, physical power reduced. So basically everything is reduced, but their scaling is increased. So what that means is that the jungle will be able to solo all of these camps pretty easily on their own, and then over time it'll be harder to kill. One thing that I don't like about these changes is I think that the health should be increased a little bit. Like, going down 220 health at level 1 seems like a bit much to me, and I think that it would be better if it was a bit more tankier, because right now as a support in PTS, I could build like no damage and I can still solo camps pretty easily on my own, and I don't know if it should be like that. It just feels like when you hit a buff compared to an actual minion, that the buffs are so much easier to kill, and it feels a little bit odd. But again, all these numbers are just going to get tweaked. I just think they're a bit squishy. All these changes are going to pretty much be the same. All their base stats are reduced, but then their scaling is increased. Reduce the movement speed from speed buff from 20 to 15%. This is a good change. I actually am one of those people who I just wish speed buff would be removed, and then add out of combat movement speed to like Bumba's Mask in previous seasons, or now you have the blessings in this season, which we'll get onto in another section of this video. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a decent change. And then purple buff added 5% protection. So this was the strongest buff in the game. This was the weakest. They bring them a little bit closer to each other. Good changes all around. Jungle and the objective. Gold Fury now spawns at 5 minutes. Previously spawned at 1 minute. So that's good. You can't do crazy early Gold Furies. This mainly helps the scaling throughout the game of Gold Fury. Base health increased from 2550 to 3000, so it'll be a little bit tankier, but also it spawns later, so that's pretty much the same thing. Physical and magical protections reduced from 25 to 20. Health minute reduced from 280 to 225. I think this needs to be, not reverted, but it needs to be lessened. Losing 55 health a minute, having like 55 health a minute less, Gold Fury becomes really, really squishy post like 10, 12 minutes on the PTS. Basically, when anybody finishes penetration, or if people just have a lot of attack speed, it feels really, really easy to kill Gold Fury. And I think this should kind of get changed, especially because the protections are being reduced. So I don't know if I would do a full revert, but I think this number should be closer to 260, maybe 250, and then it would be a lot better. Physical magical protections per minute increased from 0 to 1, so it will have prots, but like I said, once you start getting like XE and stuff like that, you shred through it anyways. Team XP reward a minute reduced from 10 to 5, and then the gold per minute reduced from 8 to 6, so Gold Fury is a lot less snowbally. Good change all around. Pyromancer replaces the Portal Demon. So, I actually like this a lot, and I guess I should read it first now. Upon exiting the fountain, players will gain 40% movement speed for 15 seconds. Entering combat will immediately remove this buff. This is Swiftwing. So, Pyromancer now gives your team Swiftwing. But the reason I like it more is that so in Season 4, there would be a lot of plays in competitive games where both teams would be like 20% health, and one team would have like, so you could pull Pyromancer, do a team fight, and then Pyromancer could be low, or like one team could be like 30% HP and your team is 20. Each side has to back, but if that team got Portal Demon, they'd be able to back and then immediately do fire, even though they didn't really win the fight that hard. And it felt really, really snowball. Like, Portal Demon post 15 minutes, if you lost it, there was like a legitimate chance that the game was just going to be over because they could rush fire instantly, and you had to be sitting there. But now that Pyromancer has this type of buff, you'll still have, like, they'll still have a lot of extra time on the map than you will, but it's not horrible, and also entering combat breaks it, so it's just a little bit more balanced. Also, it allows you to make plays on the duo side of the map easier than you could, whereas Portal Demon, if you, like, did fire, then Portal Demon, and then you backed, but you wanted to push left, it would be a little awkward to, like, go through Portal, then push duo lane. I should have said duo, not left. But now you can just back and just run straight to duo. I don't know. I think it's a good change. It's a little less OP than Portal, and I think that's good. And then I like that it impacts the entire map, not just, you know, mainly Fire Giant. Physical protection per minute increased from 0 to 2. Magical blah blah blah. Team XP and gold. So basically, they made Gold Fury less snowbally, and Portal used to be a static reward of XP and gold. They now make that scale on Pyromancer, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Fire Giant base health reduced from 6,650 to 6,000. Power decreased. Physical protection reduced. Health per minute increased. Power per minute increased, and Team Gold reward a minute increased. I don't like... I think having gold scaling on all these objectives is really good. I just don't like how squishy they are. Like, I think Gold Fury and Fire are way too squishy, and especially Fire Giant, like, getting this buff basically wins you the game because the buff is so strong. Like, if you're in a competitive scenario and you get Fire Giant and you play it well and you play it cleanly, you pretty much win, and being able to burn it really quickly, like, 650 health is a big deal. And having the protections be reduced, I just think I would have rather seen a health increase, or like the buff of Fire Giant be a little bit decreased, but here you go, it's actually the opposite. Appears when Fire Giant respawns after the 25-minute mark, so it's Enhanced Fire Giant. Grants an enhanced version of the normal Fire Giant buff, 100 magical power, 65 physical power, regenerate more health, 20% damage to its towers and phoenixes. I actually hate this change a lot. I think it is important for casual and ranked player bases to be able to end the game earlier, and I get that, and I think that's the point of this change. From a competitive point of view, I think that this is going to make games feel really bad, that Fire Giant is easier to burn, and that when people actually get it, especially post 25 minutes, it basically just wins you the game. Like, 100 magical power and 65 fizz power is so much, like, that damage difference is ridiculous, and this is basically, like, this is better than, like, Stone of Gaia passive, which is already really insane regen, and it'll... My guess, I haven't played enough games to know for sure yet, and I haven't scrimmed. My guess is that this is going to make the game feel really snowballing whenever people get fire, and I don't think that's that great of a thing. I mean, 25 minutes, if you want the game to end in 25 to 30 minutes, which is what I think Hyros is going for, that's fine, but I also think it's important to have some sort of counterplay on Phoenixes, and I don't know if you can really counterplay this as much as you used to be able to. Minions, this is the other big change, probably the last big change as far as the map is concerned. Lane minions will now reward an additional 5 XP and 1 gold every 3 minutes, so this is the scaling over time. They deal 40% less damage to gods. From the feedback I've gathered, I think this is a bit too much. I think that the change is good, but I think it should maybe be 20%, 25% less, 15% less, something, maybe not 15, but like 20, 25, something like that would be a better change. I think minions are, you know, they basically tickle you now, and I don't think it should be like that because you can be too aggressive in lane and they don't really do much at all. Lane minions will now prioritize towers, phoenixes, and titans over minions, deployables, and pets. This is actually a really big change, and I don't think people notice it. This basically means if you're getting pushed under tower, it's really valuable because you're going to be poking down towers a lot, and it'll put you into this point of the game where you can actually go for early tower plays, and you can constantly be chipping away at them, so the laning phase will last longer, and it'll feel more impactful. And if you are being put... This is part of the reason I didn't want the 25% gold refund on minions hit by a tower, is if you are pushing them under tower and you're, like, poking their tower down, you actually gain a lot for pushing people under, and I think that's really cool to have that sort of laning phase and fight in Smite. That has never happened before. It's normally only been jungle fights, and I think being able to have fights on towers and prioritize that is really cool. Ranged minions is going to be the same thing. Their XP is reduced, their base health is increased. That's for all of these. Towers and phoenixes, actually I lied, this is a big change. Their protections are all reduced, but their power is increased, so they'll deal more damage, and they'll deal more damage to minions, as you can see here, so minions won't be able to just tank a tower and do a ton of damage. And this change is important because now that they all target the towers, you don't want them to live too long, otherwise towers would go down way too quickly. And then, yeah, protections are reduced, so you can get towers easier, like I was saying, but they'll do more damage to minions. Kill bounty changes. Assists now provide a bonus gold to players based on their level difference from the kill target, rather than the killer's level, so this just, you know, to help people come back, that type of stuff. Season ticket, all that good stuff, and now starter items. So I'm going to cut the video here. This is going to be one part. I will release more parts as we go. But yeah, for now, that is the map changes for Season 5. There's a lot of stuff in here. Basically, everything scales over time. Your comeback potential is a lot more. But once you get into the mid and the late game with the new Fire Giant, you are going to start really feeling it, and the game is going to end very, very quickly because of how strong that buff is. And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys in the next one.